Let's give them a good round of applause, colleagues. I liked the engagements in the first session, but we are going to do it differently in this session. When you ask questions, colleagues, do not preamble. Please do not preamble. We understand the need to ask questions. But if your question has already been asked, you can just accept that so that we don't repeat the same thing over and over again. So, Mr. Nkosi, there are mics there. So you just indicate when you are ready so that we start. I'll tell you after about how we are not disciplined in terms of going up and out and back, but that will be our discussion when the big bosses are no longer here. Okay, so colleagues, over to you.
Good afternoon, colleagues. It's tough having to work after lunch. I call it a graveyard shift. So, Mr. Sonti, I think the cameraman will play a key role.
Yeah, so I'm asked that you move a bit to the middle. All of you just move a bit to the middle. We want to take your good sides.
Can we start? We could. Oh, awesome. No, like I was saying when I put Sonti that the cameraman will be playing a pivotal role in ensuring that people do not sleep during this graveyard shift. Colleagues, it's been a long day, but welcome back from lunch. And we are going to be discussing a very important aspect. Not that everything else that has been discussed today was not important, but this one is equally important, I think, because of the direction that we are taking as a sector and what we are preparing ourselves to. I think Mr. Sonti has introduced our panel, colleagues, the people that I'll be having a discussion with regarding the topic on partnering for transformation. So I had to check my panelists a little bit, what does that mean? Partnering for transformation, which is a collaborative approach that involves two or more organizations working together to achieve a significant and lasting change. I think that's what we will be, be looking into, having the shared goals and visions, collaborative decision making, mutual benefit, and of course the long-term commitment between, the partners. I think with that being said, Mr. Butele is the Chief Director of special projects within the department. Based on your own observations, our college is doing enough to leverage on the existing partnerships with the industry to gather additional support for relevant infrastructure for their workshops and technology advancement to enhance the quality of teaching and learning. So basically, when you look at the colleges and the partners that they have, do you think, do we do enough to leverage on the existing partnerships?
Thank you very much, facilitator, and it's an afternoon session. Our college is doing enough. There is work that colleges are doing, but if I'm saying it's enough, I don't think I will be doing justice. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of a partnership, so that we ensure that we align it to this responsive curriculum that the earlier panel spoke about. Because I think Mr. Vele on the earlier panel asked the responsiveness, responsive to what? The partnership for what? For me, for delivering a responsive curriculum. But what underpins a responsive curriculum? It's an infrastructure that we need to put up at TVET colleges that responds to the curriculum. It's the infrastructure that is aligned to the fourth industrial revolution and all the latest technology that the industry needs. What is the progress that we have made as a sector in that regard, so that we can start measuring our pace and say, are we transforming at the speed and pace that is required? Maybe as an elder sitting here, I might say, we are moving, but young people will say, you are not. We don't see any movement happening. But if we look on the structure and development of occupational qualification, firstly, on the development of a qualification, you can't develop that qualification without industry partners, because that's where the partnership starts. Secondly, once you have developed that using both government and private sector, then you need the infrastructure that is the responsibility of the department to assist colleges so that we are able to then offer this responsive curriculum. There is work that has been done. Typical example is the work that has been done in the centers of specialization. It's not enough because since 2019 up to now, we have 54 centers at 26 TVET colleges. It's not enough. We need more of those centers that are developed using the TVET college together with the local industry, whether we are looking at district development model, whether we're looking at the local economic development, so that we don't develop infrastructure that will be a white elephant. So there is work that has been done, but my observation is not enough. We still need to do more.
Yeah, all right. I hope we are noting, colleagues, what Mr. Buthelezi has said, but I think you've touched on something on infrastructure, aligned with, the fourth industrial, revolution. And with that being said, Ms. Mafilika, I think I have a question for you that how can TVET institutions, industry, and government work together to address the challenges and opportunities presented by the fourth industrial technologies?
Okay, thanks. I think the beauty about industry is that they've got the technological muscle in terms of the latest trends and what it is that is available. And you find that with most companies, it's not only companies that you'll find within South Africa, but you can also find it within the region, but also internationally. So they are able to draw on the international standards and also driving in terms of what needs to be done. What we have picked up is that more and more companies are actually having their own training institutions, meaning you'll come out of a TVET college, BMW has their own training program before they actually absorb you. And I think therein, for me, lies the first opportunity of collaboration and partnership. Once we understand that TVET colleges are meant to train young people, your SETAs contribute not only in terms of funding, but also bringing the employers on board, meaning you need to also revolutionize the SETA landscape such that they understand or enhance on their role in terms of how they advance training, but us dedicating and saying TVET institutions are our institutions of providing training. We don't start having a duplicate, because once you start having a duplicate, you then get industry that does not contribute towards government and the training agenda of government. They mimic or they create duplication, and therefore that's where they are only focused. So I think that's the first point of, for me, I think that would be a point of convergence. The second one would be in terms of when you're looking at understanding the trends, and I think we did discuss this earlier to say, you know, if you're in a classroom, there's limited capacity because most of the time that's what you're dealing with. So when you're looking at issues of exchange not only in terms of students, but also exchange in terms of lecturers. But most for me is the collaboration of saying, let's also start having part-time lecturers that are coming from industry. It does not mean that when you're going as a student in an institution, you are only exposed to lecturers in the institution. We have fundis that are coming from these particular companies where they can come as guest lecturers. So those could be the partnerships. It does not necessarily mean that all partnerships have to be monetary in value. There could be other value-added services in terms of those partnerships that can be brought into the sector so that you create that hybrid, because the one that's in the classroom and the one that's in the industry, they have different niches, and therefore through those experiences, you can actually get a better collaboration. And lastly for me is, I think what we're probably not tapping into as the TVET sector is the fact that sometimes you get students who go through the university system, qualify, you become a professional, and then you realize, you know what, there's a particular skill that I want. You know, maybe I want to go into the beautician industry. I never studied that, I was a lawyer, but now this is an opportunity that I want to get into. You then don't have offerings that are available to fit that need. A working person who only wants maybe to come on Saturdays, on certain days, and for a fixed period. And I think this is where the international market is really starting to tap in. I don't know if people have seen, but if you want to go and do your lashes or your nails, it's 5 days and it's 15,000, you know, and this could easily be a space that the college sector could play into in terms of providing those part qualifications. So I think there's a spread of things that could be explored in terms of how we enhance on the partnerships to make sure that we don't look at just the TVET and the entire ecosystem on its own, but how do we leverage on different partnerships in order for us to do that. And lastly, is in terms of your NGOs and so forth. It does not mean we need to do or replicate everything that is out there, but how do we maximize on the existing programs that other people have to say, I will channel my students through you for this particular specialized intervention. And I think for me, if that's the model we adopt, then we would go far towards the transformation of the sector.
Thank you. I think Ms. Mafilika has touched, you know, a very important point. But I think I want to take you back a bit on the curriculum responsiveness now, maybe particularly expanding, you know, on that phenomenon. That what is your impression of the progress made, if we've made any as a sector, to facilitate participation of industry and government to transform the curriculum in the sector? Or maybe to add on that as well, do you think it's time as TVET colleges we invest in research and development units, or maybe partner with the universities formally, where there'll be research outputs that will inform, you know, the work that we are doing? Because currently, I know in colleges, probably it sits within the partnerships and linkages where it feeds the curriculum at, it feeds the academic department, you know, on what's happening in the industry. But like, I'm more interested in, you know, the progress, you know, that we have made, and also maybe it's a time that we focus on research and development units, or should we partner with universities in ensuring that, you know, whatever that we develop within the college space, you know, is in line with what the industry wants.
Thank you, Mr. Nkosi. I think let's just explore a bit. Partnerships. I think most of the time when people think about partnerships in TVET colleges, they are focused on partnerships for student placement. They are focused on partnerships with industry to support with facilities. There is actually a whole spectrum of activities and avenues that partnerships could be, you know, could be established with industry to support the responsiveness of curriculum. But in most cases, colleges are just focusing on those two things. Focusing on placement of students and also support with facilities and infrastructure. I think it's the nature of the qualifications that we had. They forced sort of the thinking that only concentrate on the two areas. But if you start thinking around occupational qualifications, remember these are very flexible type of qualifications. I also want to address one of the issues that was raised by Ms. Maflika here around the flexibility. The occupational qualifications are so flexible that three different colleges can offer the same occupational qualifications using 3 different delivery models. Because of the flexibility, they enable colleges to look at the conditions within that college and adapt the occupational qualifications to the conditions, as long as the standards are met and students complete and so on. So the issue of partnerships, it has to be explored beyond the traditional purposes for which colleges currently engage in partnerships for. Think about lecturers. Now, there is also the talk currently about placing lecturers in industry. But in most cases, you will find that this is an activity that a lecturer would be placed in industry for a month or 2 months and that's it. But we need to think beyond that. We need to think about partnerships wherein if lecturers have to keep abreast with the developments in industry in order for them to feed them into the curriculum to produce good quality graduates who will then hit the ground running when they go to industry. They can't just be placed in industry for 1 month or 2 months and that's it. It means they have to continuously engage with activities in industry. So the kind of partnerships that will then have to be established to facilitate this continuous professional development of lecturers has to be long-term. It has to mean that lecturers have to, one, affiliate with professional bodies in their learning areas. Can you imagine if you are a lecturer you can pick any area, and what you have been doing is teaching the same thing, for 10 years, and the industry is changing. You are not engaged with professional bodies and activities for continuous professional development in the area in which you teach. It will take only 3 to 4 years before you become obsolete. Students won't even attend your class. So the partnerships that we need to then start thinking about and implementing is partnerships that then, for lecturers, it must not just be once-off placements. It must be long-term partnerships where lecturers engage continuously with activities in industry. Now, there's also an issue that you have raised here about research. Look, there is effort within TVET colleges, especially within the department side, with support of SETAs, to build research capacity through providing bursaries for lecturers to do postgraduate studies, masters, PhDs, and so on. And I think that is an effort moving towards establishing units at some point it will start probably with just action research type of projects. But there are also colleges that are collaborating with universities to tap into the capacity that universities have for research to support some of their activities within the college. We've been talking about situational analysis of the skills needs, of surrounding and communities and areas where colleges are situated in order for them to identify the relevant qualifications that aligns with the skill. Some of these colleges are tapping into the research capacity of university. I know Muteo with the University of Free State. I know there's a college that's collaborating with Stellenbosch and so on, so that they can start building that capacity for research. So these partnerships should be much more broader than the traditional thinking of placements and infrastructure development. Now, partnerships, industry is not just business. I think Ms. Mafilika touched on it also. There are other entities which are not business. There are NGOs, there are other entities, governmental entities, like institutes that live within other departments. For technology, you might think of something like NEMISA in the Department of Telecommunications and Digital Technologies. So the partnerships should not just be about the industry, business, we benefit with resources, and so on. But there are also partnerships that exist at curriculum development and curriculum support. The knowledge of industry has to filter into curriculum development all the time. I think currently the structure with occupational qualifications is that because they are developed through SETAs, the industry role players sit in SETA chambers where these qualifications are developed. So already that is taken care of with occupational qualifications. So you're not going to have a situation where an occupational qualification is developed by some academics sitting somewhere through a research that they have done as pie in the sky somewhere. It's occupational qualifications are developed through SETAs with involvement of industry role players for that sector in that SETA, and quality assured by the QCTO and so on. I think for now, let me stop there, Mr. Nkosi. But there is progress. It's just that we need to start broadening these types of, broadening the type of activities that we engage in partnerships. Thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Vere. Mr. Buteles, Mr. Vere just mentioned that, partnerships, they go beyond just partnering with business. There's other entities that we can partner with. But I think I need us to be a little bit more practical, with this one to say, in your own experience, what successful models or strategies that colleges can implement to foster TVET industry collaborations, but also maybe touch on the role that these leaders that are sitting here can play, in these models and strategies that the colleges can utilize.
Thank you for that. Next to every college, there's either a town, a small or big, but in those towns, there's either a chamber of business or a chamber of commerce or an employer association. One typical example that can be done, it's where we make the local industry part of the college community and vice versa. In the country, we have most of these small companies are contributing a certain percentage of the payroll as the skills development levy. And a number of the small ones are not, due to capacity, are not able to claim that money back. And that money end up sitting on SETAs or somewhere else not utilized. If we can get the college understanding the workplace skills plan of each and every industry operating in their locality, assisting that industry to complete SETA document. They won't be even paid by that industry because they will be paid as a percentage of the grant that will be paid back from the SETA to the company. It's a low-hanging fruit that and that will ensure that the college know what are the skills needed in within the local industry. Whether it's a small company or medium size or a large company, but what are the skills? So that when we start in January 2025 and saying we are taking a new cohort, then we say, these are priority skills in our locality. Let's align that so that if we train you here, we know company X already want that skill. What are the skills that are existing there? So those are some of the examples. Over and above the NGO, the NPO, and a number of other governmental entities that are operating in our communities, which have interest in skills development. So those are some of the typical partnership that can assist the colleges, but it will also be indirectly assisting the local business so that they will have the skills, learners that have skills and competencies that are required because each one understands what the other one needs. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. And I think, Ms. Mafilika now, being an executive in the corporation that you be, or in the corporate space that you belong to, I don't want to call them by name, for obvious reasons. Where do you see the partnership, with the TVET colleges evolve in the future? I mean, given the sustainable development goals in the 4th or 5th, digital industrial revolution in the digital area, the Africa developmental goals and all of those things, and what new initiatives or collaborations, are on the horizon between the TVET colleges and, the whole corporate space?
Okay, thanks. I think, and maybe speaking to the entity that I come from, I think one of the things that we raised earlier on was the fact that we need to look beyond. So the first thing we challenged ourselves was to say, given the demand that we have in this country, given the fact that we have a lot of young people that want access to higher education and the fact that the resources are not so great, we acknowledge that we don't have enough in terms of the state pot. What other mechanisms can we do as an entity to help ensure that we get alternative funding that can be able to, assist a lot of people? And I think earlier on I did say that there's enough money in South Africa if you look at the 3 main sectors in South Africa, meaning it's government. And when I speak government, I'm not only speaking the Department of Higher Education and Training, I'm speaking all government departments. I'm speaking all public entities in South Africa. It's all private sector entities, and it's also your civil society, which is your NGO. Part of why the pot right now we are unable to stretch it is the fact that you have a student who's your top student. I end up being in the principal's award, so I get money from there. I end up being at NSFAS qualifying, I get money from there. I end up, somebody in the mining industry giving me the money, I get that money, and I keep quiet because I feel like I deserved it. I'm there. So part of the problem we have in South Africa is that because we don't have a single system where we're able to see and where we're able to maximize on the current funding pot, we are unable to stretch it. And I think that's the space where we want to play in to say, how do we consolidate all the funding pots such that we can stretch the funding to every deserving students in this particular country? Because right now, in terms of how we are doing it, we are at different parities, especially those that are managed on their own. And I think that's the first sort of space that we want to tap into and leverage on it, given that we are the biggest funder in South Africa from a bursary management point of view. With the initiatives that we've tried to do, the first one is to say, let us have a central database. I think in South Africa, we don't have a system that singly unifies a student, where you can tap into that to find out where is this student funded, as an example. Where if a private funder wants to go, or maybe I'm an individual who just wants to fund one student, where do I go to see that I'm giving the most deserving and I'm not duplicating where we are at. So those are part of the initiatives that we want to drive to say, let's have a single source. It doesn't have to be managed by us as an entity, but let's have that database available so that whoever wants to participate, they are able to have a view in terms of who's participating in that particular space. And I think that will go a long way in leveraging the existing resources that we have and expanding it to as many students as possible within our particular spaces. The second one, I think, especially for the transformation of the TVET sector, and I think maybe it was you earlier on who raised it to say, we're not fully maximizing on the applicable legislations that we have. You see, in COVID, and I think we actually, COVID was a good educator for South Africa. One, to test our readiness to respond to crisis. What I saw, and I think it was Majuba TVET, if I can't recall, they were manufacturing, they were doing their own masks at the time. And to a point where I think they were even selling those masks to industries. I think one of the missed opportunities or areas that TVET colleges should start looking into is how do you turn your existing, knowledge production or industry production such that you can have a contract with Woolworths, and then you become the main supplier because that's what the TVET colleges are specializing in. So I think those kind of partnerships where we don't produce things and then we go buy them at the same time. How do we maximize on what we have, form the necessary partnerships and be able to do that? If you look at the clothing industry right now, I don't know a lot of Xhosa people, those who wear there's this new trend of the mbhaco, yeah. If you look at umbhaco, how it has just evolved, and I just want to make an example in terms of the practical example where people can play. That umbhaco used to be less than 500, probably 3 years ago. Like the selling rate now is around 8,000 to 12,000 per garment, And I think for me, these are the areas that we need to start tapping into. Because if you have students that are doing, you're sewing in a particular institution, now this is one of the things that is in demand. When the price has come up, how do we use those and even sell them internationally? If you look at Macross and what has happened to them and their brand and how they've grown, is how you take your own brand and you sell it out there. So I think mine is to just say, with the partnership, we must not forget that we have the power on our own to produce things that can be sold or that can be exported out there. How do we tap into that? How do we start positioning ourselves so that we are not sponging or receiving and buying elsewhere, but we are actually trading as well and providing, certain products out there to industry, where that exclusively in this particular college, this is what we're doing. And we start looking at other sources of income and not say we are limited by the act. There's ways you can maneuver. If you're looking at the trend in the universities, they're having what you call business schools, and then they're selling certain products through those business schools. And I think we can do the same within the TVET sector. So it's also maximizing on those opportunities, looking at third income streams funding, and then see how do we leverage on those so that we can be able to get more funding.
Thank you. No, I'm glad, Ms. Mafilika, that the DDG is here. I hope the act will be relooked so that it gives us a bit of space to maneuver so that we can mirror the universities. I'm going to ask, the last question, colleagues, but also thereafter, give my panelists, the last closing remarks. Mr. Vera, you mentioned the other partnerships besides business. I think I'm going back there. But then our topic is partnering for transformation. But also this means that, we're partnering for transformation, also looking into students with disabilities. I just want to, zoom in, on that aspect to say, how can, maybe not even how can, with the changes that are coming, within the sector or the direction that we are taking, what is the plan, for students with disabilities? And I also want to narrow it down a bit as well and say, not physical disabilities, that are observable, but what about the invisible disabilities where, the student has a disability, but we can't see them. And the direction that we are moving into, how is the curriculum transformation and the curriculum reform are going to address those challenges?
Thank you, Mr. Nkosi. Um, earlier, when we were talking about the responsiveness, I indicated that responsiveness is not just about the industry, the society needs, but it's also about responsive to the student needs. Now, the student needs is not only, the learning material and the living allowances, but it's also the well-being of students. So there are a lot of efforts that have been put in place to have the curriculum or extracurricular activities within TVET colleges to support students. I mean, if you look at what we have now on the health side, there is no institution that does not have a higher health representative, for instance, to deal with the mental issues and other related health and social issues that are supported through higher health. But also with students with disabilities, there's a lot of effort that has been that has been made. It started with changing the policies. I think Ms. Kungwane is here. She will tell you about when the policies just to identify the whole spectrum of disabilities that exist within our students. So that when you know there's the whole spectrum of the different visible and non-visible disabilities, then you will then know how to support them. So they started with a whole policy to develop, a whole policy developed to identify all the possible disabilities that exist within our students, and then formulate a strategy to support them. And one of those strategies involves the funding. Students with disabilities, through NSFAS as an example, they do qualify for support for other materials that they might need beyond what is provided for the other students. Even with accommodation, there are other funding, extra funding aligned to students with disabilities, so that when we deliver curriculum for any program, then we know that students with disabilities are also accommodated within the learning space that this curricula is being delivered. It might not be aspects that relates to the specific teaching and learning. For instance, in the teaching and learning space, there are concessions and accommodations that exist for students with disabilities. In some instances, the curriculum allows students with maybe visual impairment to get magnifiers and all of that. And in some instances, students with non-visible disabilities that have been diagnosed, you might find that they are given more time, for instance, to complete their assessments beyond what is provided to the other students. So there's many accommodations, and this happens because of the partnerships that either the department has with organizations that work with students with or people with disabilities. Either it's hearing impairment or visual impairment. We have organizations that we work with at departmental national level. But there's also partnerships that institutions have with their local organizations that support them. And there's also a lot of effort currently with establishment of disability units, student disability units in TVET colleges. which then also requires partnerships with organizations and entities that work with students with disabilities. So I think we already have 17 of those in the public TVET colleges, the student disability units that currently exist. Some of them equipped, with equipment that assist students with disabilities, serviced and supported by partners who might not be educational institutions, but other entities outside there. So there's a lot of effort in that space. Thank you.
Thank you. Program director, I think you can start maybe lining up people for questions while I source out the last thoughts from my, our panelists. I'm just going to give them 2 minutes each, to maybe make closing comments regarding the partnering for transformation within, the TVET sector. Just 2 minutes, colleagues, your thoughts, and just wrap up. And then we will take questions from the delegates. Thank you. Mr. Teles, go in that.
Thank you. In transformation, I think let us leave no one behind. And I request the leadership that is here that let the student leadership hold those of us that are able to assist. So let me start again. On this transformation, whether it's curriculum or we are talking about partnership with the different stakeholders, let us ensure that no one is left behind. It's the work of the leadership to hold us to account in ensuring that we don't leave anyone behind, including the people with disability. When I started Mr. Kos as an apprentice, or I was recruited as an apprentice in '89, it was a policy of that company that no female will be an apprentice or an artisan in that company. Lest they know that females are now known to be better welders than men. So it was just the issue that was taking a country backwards. So that's my closing part.
Thanks. I think for me there's 2 things. One is that we don't have to do everything alone. I think that's the most important one. There's a lot that has been done there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just need to tap into existing opportunities to maximize on what it is that we want to achieve. I think that's the first one. The second one for me is I would love to see the day when true partnership realizes proper articulation. What I mean by that is I would love to see an ideal where universities are strictly used for academic purposes, meaning you do research work, you want to be a professor, and TVET colleges are utilized for technical work. As an example, if you want to be a dentist, you do your theory in a university because that's what they're dealing with, but your practicals are done in a TVET college. Once you achieve that true partnership and that true articulation, you also start to merge the differences between these various sectors, including your community college. So I think if we're to effectively work towards an ideal where there's seamless exchange between these 3 sectors of education, of higher education in South Africa, such that you can start a qualification here, end it here, and still be able to get that, then for me, I think that we would have achieved the true partnership around how we want to transform the TVET sector, but maybe not only the TVET sector, but the entire higher education system at large.
Thank you. Curriculum is at the center of everything. So we should not limit partnerships to just few aspects of the curriculum. We should look at partnerships that support the whole sum of the curriculum. And I think currently we may have been focusing on just few aspects of supporting the curriculum that we engage in partnership on. But let's start looking beyond the few activities, beyond this placement, beyond the lecturer placement, beyond just the resources for workshops, and start exploring partnerships for the other aspects of supporting the curriculum. And then we will then be able to have this transformation of curriculum working. It also requires the mindset shift. I understand it's very comfortable, especially for lecturers. It's very comfortable to wake up, do everything that's predetermined. And you can do the same thing for the whole year and you are comfortable with it. But when you are sitting along, having done the same thing that you wake up for the past 5 years, exactly the same thing, do you think you're doing justice to the quality of the graduates that you are producing if the industry is evolving and your practices are not evolving? So let's start, as an example, I'm just making that as an example because lecturers are here. But let's start looking at partnerships beyond what we currently look at and incorporate all the other aspects of the curriculum in our engagements for partnerships. Thank you.
No, thank you. Over to you, Program Director.
Okay. Thank you so much. So before they ask questions, it's a strange phenomenon that it's only men that are interested in asking questions.
Let's change that picture.
So I want to tell them now, do not preamble. Straight to the point. We know how far you travel, status, to arrive here, but let's just ask the question as it is. Let's start with you, President.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Luto Tile from the Eastern Cape Province, President of East Cape Midlands College. Well, I have 2 questions for Mr. Vele and a comment for the whole panel. The first one goes like this. How can partnerships between institutions, industry, and the government be strengthened to better meet and evolving needs of the labor market? Question number 2, in what ways can digital technologies and online learning platforms be leveraged to enhance the delivery of TVET programs and make them more accessible to a wider audience?
You will have to repeat the second question.
The
sorry.
second question, in what ways can digital technologies and online learning platforms can be leveraged to enhance the delivery of the TVET programs and make them more accessible to a wider audience? Well, as I was sitting over there, it came into my attention that it is important to discuss the role of technology and innovation in transformation the TVET sector to meet the demands of the 4th industrial revolution. Thanks.
Mr. President. Good afternoon. I am Viwe Kula, also from East Cape Midlands College. That's my president. Mine is just going to be very short, I hope. I just wanted to ask, because we keep on touching on this thing, I hear it, but I don't hear it, but I hear it. The issue of advocacy with regards to labor. We are discussing this shift of our programs and the qualifications that we offer. How well, Mr. Valley, this one is for you. How well would you say the advocacy has happened with labor with regards to the shift, if any? Yes, because we'd like to check that. Because I foresee a few red flags, and I've seen my comrades here from Naptosa and Nehau. I foresee a few red flags if that process, we are not going to do justice to it. I think let me stop there, not explain it, because of time.
Good afternoon. I'm one of the 4IR master trainer from Welcome College. I'm very glad about the 4IR lab that has been open. I just want to applaud our sector. Maga, the worrying factor, lies, like for instance, I can just make mention of the first one, cyber security. And the third one, the second one is 4IR lab. But the only worrying factor is that after launching a lab, there is no follow-up to make sure that lab is working, especially for cyber security. The whole South Africa, we have a problem of cyber attack. I think all of us, we need only, just an example, a fundamental cyber security. The second one is a lab of 4IR. It's around Gauteng. The equipment inside is outdated. So whatever we are doing, let us make a follow-up. I thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sandile Zondi from Teguni TVET College. I'm a senior lecturer at Omilo campus. Well, panel members, understanding that the structure of occupational programs comprises of a theory, practical, and workplace modules. However, we are experiencing a significant pushback from companies who some refuse to assist with students' workplace placements rather. Understanding that before you even commence with the enrollment of these students on occupational qualifications, you are therefore required to have secured placements for their workplace modules. Perhaps this question is directed to Mr. Vele. Could we not have a national coordinated effort led by DHEAD to address the issue of establishing partnerships with the private sector in order to seamlessly implement the rollout of occupational programs?
Good day. My name is Sarapula Miso from the Home of Legends. Mr. Vena, this one is directed to you because as part of stakeholder engagement, it speaks to the stakeholder matrix. Part of it, you identify stakeholders to address another stakeholder's needs. I will give two scenarios of example. That the thing is that we are not saying there are no partnership. There are MOU that have been signed with this other institution. For example, the issue of liquor board, whereby we have at ample times engaged with them to solve these issues of alcohol consumption of students. Because our challenge is that students, there are no alcohol in their residence. Ne? So they go outside to seek alcohol. On their way, they are being raped, they are being stabbed, they are being harassed and whatsoever. On the other hand, when we engage with liquor board, maybe to establish those alcohol within the premises, they are saying we are promoting alcohol. So you see, it's an MOU that is not working. It's not like they are not there, but they are not solving our issues that the students are facing. As well as the one of student safety and security, whereby part of what EMC, our college in the Home of Legends, is championing in the maturity model, where they do those, identify those green routes that the students should use when going to school. We have at ample times tried to engage with your subs to help us to ensure that those green routes are safe for students. But you'll find subs saying we are not even winning about in particular with our fight against extortion. You are still telling us about student issues. So even our hands are tied. So we are saying the partnerships are there, but they are not working. What is the way forward? How do we circumvent this? Thanks.
Thank you very much. I go by the name Motlati from Northern Cape Rural TVET College. Mr. Vele, again to you. No, Mr. Vele, mine is just simple and straight. Look, we have DDM structures in all district municipalities. I think yesterday the president have released a circular to say all the executive, deputy ministers and ministers must be champions of DDMs in all district municipalities. But now my question is that, are we not encouraging principal enough to participate in a district development forums, because that's where you find all the industries and stakeholders, where you are able to engage them on the issues that are affecting the institution of higher learning. How then do we develop skills in that particular district? For example, each and every district forum will have mining chamber, will have a health sector, will have social development. So those things, if there's proper coordination and partners with TVET sector principals and they are sitting there regularly, you will not have students who don't go to school because socially is challenged. The principal will strike even partnerships in those DTM meetings to say, okay, organize a special grant for the student to be able to finish their studies. So are we not encouraging them enough to participate in those forums? Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Status Clover from Buffalo City TVET College. I've got 2 or 3 progressive comments. I'm glad that the DDG is still here. We're talking about partnerships. And I get worried. I'm excited, but I get worried. I'll make an example of my college, where we are situated, where business people, they always go past. And each and every year, for the past 3 to 4 years, from January up to March, we have strikes. Who's going to partner with you? Because whatever partnership that happens at the college, the end product is a student. Now, this goes to you, SATVETSA, to yourselves. Assist the situation. I know so many in East London. I wouldn't go to Eastern Cape, but in particular in East London. Because as student support services people, we meet so many people and we hear so many bad things. Which good things could have happened, but because of APC, those did not happen. And they are not saying, when they say no, they are not telling about what is the problem. Now, we require students to assist us in terms of behavior. And we are not saying students must not address their concerns, but there's a special platform, there's a way of addressing them, not what we see in recent years. Then those partnerships, they go away. Number 2, I'm glad we speak about disabled partnerships or the assistance from outside. And remember, we have in all our communities in TVET colleges, we have disabled homes. But our colleges, in most cases, they are very skeptical. I'm worried about this tablet. No, I thought this guy is stealing. We have disabled homes where they're supposed to be our feeder. But the problem, do we have infrastructure to accept them? Yes, there are those that we can accept because they require devices. We can, they are funded, they will get the devices. But in instances where you need a physical infrastructure to have those students. Problem number 2, our lecturers, are they fit enough to cope or accept or deal with those students in our classrooms? If you can sort those out. Because from a sports, arts and culture perspective, we are crying loud to colleges every time. Bring disabled students because we have a space to accommodate them. But I can tell you each and every year, it's only 3, Limpopo, Northwest and Free State that will bring. Are you telling me in all these 9 provinces, we don't have those students? It's because even on admission, people, they pick and choose because they are skeptical on what are we going to do when they are inside. And mine is saying, if you've never tried it, then you will always lose. Take them so that you realize that there's a need for a ramp, there's a need for this, there's a need for that. If you don't see a need for the infrastructure for them. And it's bad because we want them to grow like us. I think the progressive one, number 3,
Esonti, can you manage this?
thank you very much.
Sanborn, I hope you are all right. Thank you very much. My name is Zuko Mbolegwa. Now Sfiso is laughing because the chairperson of the Real Progressive Forum is here. He knows that. But I'm not here to preamble. I think for us colleagues to understand the problem, to find a solution first, we need to get to what is the problem about partnerships. Who is the problem and why is there a problem? Let me tell you what I've identified as a problem. Problem is DHET. Thank you very much. You know why I'm saying so? It's DHET and government. We've got companies, industries that just don't want to partner with TVET colleges and nothing is done. If I was in a seat where DDG was sitting, I was going to say, let's impose high taxes for any industry that does not want to place students. Then they will place. Because the reason why ESCOM and so on, they've got their own colleges, is because they know that nothing's going to happen. Now they end up competing with the TVET colleges. Let's find a way not to plead with the industries, but to force them. They exist in our land, and what is very important, they must, it's a must, they must be able to partner, place our student, partner with TVET colleges and universities alike, instead of opening their duplicate universities. Then the problem will be, that's number 1. Number 2, the second problem is the principals of the college and the follow-up from the head, TDG. Principals, they sign MOUs with industry and partners, and those MOUs never function. When they go there, TDG goes there, they just look how many MOUs you signed, there are 6 correct. You get, when they do that assessment, bamnigu 4. But how passile. But they don't know if these MOU are actually functional. And no one is making a follow-up. I can tell you most TVET colleges here, they've got MOU with ESCOM, another COM, and so on and so forth. And it's wrong. When we go and monitor principals, let's see if the MOU that was signed, is it executed, is it functioning, and what does it do for the student? But if you're just sending MOUs with these industries without any follow-up, then we are a problem. Lastly, I must say, I like what is being proposed to say, when we look at the industries, let's not look into monetary industries, but let's go further. Let's categorize partners. Let's categorize, and we say this is partnership so and so, and this partnership so and so and so and so. And again, let's not leave partnership issue on one department here, Will, that is not even here, by the way. Don't leave it to one department. Everyone should be a responsibility of the principal, a responsibility of an assistant director like myself, a responsibility of CISO, to make sure that you create partnerships. And don't look at partnership only for students that are existing. What about these ones that are with you currently? Because they also need partnership. We've got students here who are poor, whom we need partnership with Kellogg's and whatever, to make sure that you feed the student. That's partnership number one. Don't wait up until they want to be exited, then you place them through partnership. How do you even get in placing them when they are hungry? You're placing a hungry person. It's not correct.
Okay, Zuko. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Ivale Zuko. Kumenge.
Thanks. Thanks, Chair. Sive Madala Gumenge, the Provincial Secretary of the Eastern Cape Triple S Forum. Chair, I want to sponsor to the department because I don't want us to conclusively think here that partnerships and linkages are not working in all colleges. They are working very well at East Cape Midlands. Because at East Cape Midlands, we don't treat partnerships as a placement issue. We make sure that we develop the entire value chain as to what is the role of partners. Perhaps DDG, you need to convene, you need to convene a forum that can probably identify all these key areas, convene a stakeholder engagement model that will develop a model for TVET colleges, because I listen here that it seems as if we don't know whether we're going or coming. Ne? The model TTG must help us to onboard a stakeholder or a partner. The model must help us to maintain or service a stakeholder. The model VUVU must help us to offboard a stakeholder, because stakeholders are not necessarily a permanent issue. You need them because there is a particular issue that you need a relationship with. For example, my friend from the province of Legends made a point about Eastern Cape Liquor Board. We have a partnership with the Eastern Cape Liquor Board purely for the problem of alcoholism. I am certain once we've dealt with that matter, we will offboard that particular stakeholder. Currently, because we've got a psychometric or a psychiatric hospital in Makanda, we're in a process of developing a partnership with that hospital so that it can help us to help our students, so that our students can psychologically deconstruct themselves. Because we've got students that are coming from rural areas. Now, when they come to the city, it's a new issue. They don't know how to react and how to behave. So Fort England Hospital must help us at the start of the year to psychologically deconstruct the thinking and approach to life of these particular students. So I want to sponsor that. Perhaps out of the comments made here, there is a need for the department to convene a partnerships and linkages, a forum on how to process all of the work expected so that we don't reduce it to placement only. Thank you.
Okay.
Greetings to you, everyone. My name is Radebetandi Irene. I am the Deputy President at Maluti TVET College. Mema Filika, I've heard that you mentioned something based on leadership, partnerships with lecturers. So this is the suggestion. Before exploring out the sector, can we explore within the premises of the sector and have a program that rotates lecturers and burden it by going to universities? This can help them to ensure that when we consider international partnership, we have located strengths and area of improvement in individual institutions in the sector. Then the second question is for Mr. Vele. Ntate, as much as we have differently able students that are accommodated, are there any partnerships that ensure that students with differently abled are observed in their working space? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, DP, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Solven, an official from King SATVETSA College. I will not touch DP on what has been asked already. I'll just touch on 2 or 3 items. One, I know a number of colleges countrywide have actually established offices for partnerships and linkages. Some are having the functions under the curriculum managers or the occupational qualifications managers. I just want to check from the departmental side, probably there's a directorate there that deals with partnerships, as to how are they currently assisting on the capacity building of these directorates, which have been established by a number of colleges within the country. Obviously, on issues of servicing as well as sustainability of the partnerships that are being lobbied at the level of colleges, on top of what colleges are actually doing on capacitating their staff on that. I know, Chair, for example, that within the Eastern Cape, we have the OTP and the HRDC, which is the Human Resource Development Council, which most of the time would lash at colleges for not attending the Human Resource Development Councils, where even the EXEC, which is the Eastern Cape Socio-Economic Consultative Council, which provides secretariat functions to HRDC, would even be in a position to invite QCTO as they are having interest on the introduction of new qualifications, which is occupational qualifications, so that they can get the insight of that, obviously, in the presence of all the colleges, but HRDC would be in a position to say, those kinds of issues are not really serviced by TVET colleges, to an extent that they would even invite the industry, as they are at the level of the Office of the Premier. And when they invite industry, you find that as colleges were late, and industry obviously is business, and to them time means business, which is we're having issues around issues of servicing these particular partnerships, even at the level of the forums, including the Skills Development Forum, which you'd find that they collapse, they don't sit, amongst other things. Also, I just want to check on one thing of coordinating partnerships. I believe that with the trajectory that we're taking, in the direction that we're taking as a department, everyone within the TVET college, especially a responsible manager, has a responsibility to establish a partnership, whether at the level of a senior lecturer up to the level of the principal. But I just want to check in terms of the coordination of that and issues that relates to performance management. How do we actually establish the standard of performance around these particular areas? I know, for example, with your PMTS, you might be able to incorporate the issues of partnerships under those, but I don't know in relation to IQMS, because much of interest within the campuses definitely are there in terms of establishing partnerships from senior lecturers to the campus managers, but at the level of putting an authority over a standardized performance for us to be able to make someone accountable, how do we do that? There's a last, if not least, one issue that deals with the documentation around partnership, the MOUs that we would normally do with industry, amongst other organizations. You would find that in the rural area that I'm working from, the last part is that we have small organizations doing small projects, and you'd find that they do not have capacity in terms of staff to be establishing or reading out an MOU for us, as it's a requirement that there must be an MOU. As a result, there would just be a letter, which at some point you would be told that it's not recognized at the departmental level. I just want to check if there's anything that we can do for us to actually recognize those small letters which are indicating issues of partnership. This goes to even our partnership with ARC, Agricultural Research Council. We have been doing a lot of work with them, but we're only having a letter, and we can't really be having an MOU because really they don't have time for such things. Lastly, I just want to speak on the issue of sports, arts and culture in relation to the universities that we have on the municipalities. I know each and every TVET college, there might be a university next, whether it's 20 or 60 or 120 kilometers. But the sports equipment that they have really is one that we can be able to tap on as TVET colleges. And it's very key as TVET colleges that we have these partnerships, probably, or actually around issues that relate to sports, arts and culture. I know they are well experienced, even on issues of gender as well as inclusive issues of disability amongst others. So I just wanted to speak on those. DP, thank you very much.
Thank you. Over to you.
Sure. No, thank you, colleagues, for your questions. I think how we are going to go about them, we'll start with Babu Teles and then go to Uausuvuyo. The reason why we are going last to Mr. Ver is because 80% of the questions, went to him, so that when he responds, he'll just address all of them. But colleagues, I'm maybe in that order, so that maybe those that you want to respond to or are directed to you, and maybe other comments, then we will pass it on to Mr. Ver. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I have a privilege of which one I will answer because the rest is for Mr. Vale. Let me start with the colleague from Velcom, the master trainer on the 4IR Center. I must say, when it was launched, I was there with the DM, and I'm disappointed that it's not now utilized. I think it's an opportunity lost, but not only for that. I always go around TVET colleges that are having 4IR centers and on the site having a center of specialization. I always raise a question of integration. Colleges are not using the 4IR center to also assist on other programs. Like I was saying to one of the colleges that's got a 4IR center and a bricklaying center of specialization. And I was saying, but you should be now having a capability of building a smart house, because you have a 4IR center and you have a center of specialization for bricklaying. But these two are used exclusively from each other. That also talked to another question that was raised around leveraging of online learning. With these 4IR centers, we should be able to be using them as a leverage for the 4IR. There are quite a number of opportunities that are there to enhance, that are directed to TVET colleges in particular, to enhance online learning. One of the opportunities which all colleges had an opportunity to participate, and the feedback that I got was other colleges are not responding, is the Eon Knowledge Metaverse that was run by Mesita. It's a very good portal for an online learning platform that could have been utilized. But currently I'm told only few colleges around Western Cape are utilizing that platform. And it makes teaching and learning easier. Earlier, my colleague indicated the opportunity or how we responded to COVID. Because we started continuing with teaching and learning, which was something that we never thought before. But because of the COVID, we then started and seeing how can we ensure that teaching and learning continues while learners are at home and we are sitting at different places. But after COVID, we went back to our comfort zone. We never then used the opportunity to say, let's advance these opportunities that are given. The other area that I will like to comment on is the area that was raised by Nondaba around the national coordination of partnership. I don't think if we only end up at the national office in organizing partnership, it will work. DDG spoke about the industry partnership conference that happened, but if we don't take it to the locality at the college, or there's no follow-up at the college, we can organize as many in Pretoria as possible, but it will not benefit Mtashana College in the Northern KZN or any other college. So I think we need to get it right where it's needed so that we are able to talk to the college industry community rather than talking it at a high level. Yes, it's a start, but we need it at the locality. I think those are the ones that I've noted so far. I will check, maybe I will add up after Mr. Vell.
Okay. Can you hear me? It's fine, eh? Okay, I think I want to talk to 3 points. The first one is the issue of inclusivity that we were talking about. And I do want to remind us that, you know, we operate under a transformative constitution that is very firm around unfair discrimination, especially to marginalized groups. So issues of access, especially to minority groups, becomes a human rights issue. And we should not be in a situation where we are potentially found in violation of that. So as institutions that are supposed to provide access, we're supposed to provide access to everyone. Once we have opened those doors, we then have to make sure that we do the necessary plannings to get the resources available. Luckily, when it comes to the support for learners with disabilities, there's one from the department where there's the infrastructure-related funding that institutions can plan for and request that funding so that students can be assisted in terms of human support and also in terms of infrastructure-related support. From 2023, I think NSFAS even added a part there to say, whilst we understand that we're not doing enough in terms of supporting students with disabilities, let us add what we call assistive devices, so that over and above the support that is provided there, let's say if a student wants Braille and so forth, they would be able to get that. So I think with the appropriate planning, we should not be in a position that we can't provide access because we lack those resources. I also want to challenge us to say, colleagues, the issue of inclusivity is becoming very broad now. We have different categories of young people that we must respond to. There's groups that we are not talking to here, which is your LGBTI communities, where we need to start having gender-neutral facilities for those young people. So I think as we start to think of the now, we also need to start thinking of the future to say, when we're talking inclusivity, what exactly are we saying when it comes to responding to students? And I think this speaks to my earlier point of saying, how do we turn our institutions to be more responsive to students, understanding the student profile and therefore having the necessary accommodations that we need to have? Because if we don't do that, we're going to run into issues of human rights and issues of unfair discrimination that we will ideally needed to respond to. The second issue that I wanted to raise, I think it was the comment around, you know, lecturers and the exposure in terms of the international trends. I want to say learning is a lifelong process. Even if you're a manager, you still need to go out there and to learn from other industries. And primarily the issue of exchange is about learning. You don't have to wait to get to a certain standard to be exposed in terms of that. And I think where the TVET sector for me is not really robust, you find that sometimes there's partnership between South African universities and colleges of the other side instead of in college-to-college related partnerships. So I feel like we're not fully utilizing and tapping into that space, and therefore other sectors are tapping into the space where you would easily have college-to-college partnerships. And I think there's a lot of programs in South Africa that have those that we can be able to tap into. And the last one for me is the issue of the role of technology. I think we need to understand that with the introduction of technology or with innovation, there will come failure. And I think we need to acknowledge that, and I think we need to be ready for it. So what we need to do is that the department gives the framework, colleagues. The department can never tell institutions how you're supposed to do something. And I think we need that from the comments that are coming from East Cape Midlands. And I want to tap into that because you're starting to see that the institution has actually initiated a lot of activities without necessarily waiting for the department. And that's what I want to encourage, to say that we should not wait for the department to give us the grand, you know, framework to say how partnerships should be done. You are the ones who are closer to industry. You are the ones who knows those partnerships. You are the ones who will know that the liquor board is now relevant or irrelevant. The department will not know that. So I want to encourage institutions to say, let us be proactive. Let us not wait for the department for everything, because the true change, by the way, and the true transformation that we're looking for will be coming from the institutions themselves. In fact, the institution should be the one that feeds into the department, and the policy framework that is developed by the department should be made as an input from the institutions and not the other way around. And that is when we'll be able to achieve true relevance.
Thank you. I think just to add, before I get to the 40 questions, at some point, institutions will have to decide. Many of them have. Some institutions will have to decide whether they want to be glorified high schools or they want to be TVET institutions. Now, if an institution, a post-school education and training institution like a TVET college, which has a council as a governance structure, an academic board as another governing structure on academic matters, still wants a department to come in and do institutional planning and make institutional decisions. If that is the case, then maybe we don't need to mature these institutions and establish these structures and then just go back and have glorified high schools. Let me start with Luto. I think it's EMC. Institutions, industry, government. There are many platforms that institutions, either as institutions themselves or as the department, interact and engage with industry and government for various purposes. I mean, with curriculum development, I indicated earlier that there are platforms like through the SETAs where industry and the department and the quality councils then interact in that space to actually better the quality of delivery of curriculum that is developed in that space. Digital technologies and 4IR, I think we have made a lot of strides in this space. Besides introducing qualifications that develop skills supporting the 4IR related industries like the robotics and programming NCV that we have introduced in 2023. There is also a lot of partnerships in that space that the department has initiated, you know, with entities like Cisco Systems, where you have Cisco Academies, where students actually have some of the, you know, technology, ICT applications, knowledge integrated in some of the subjects within the NCV. And once they complete some of these subjects, they are ready to write professional certification assessments and so on. We also have Huawei, who have come back now to start establishing also their Huawei academies and so on. The 4IR labs that are supported by the SETAs are being established, and I was heartsore to hear that there are some of these hubs that the government is investing so much money in establishing in colleges, and institutions are not putting any effort to either engage with the department for capacitation or to, you know, to leverage partnerships so that these hubs can then be used, because they're not just established for the benefit of the TVET students. Those 4IR labs are established also for the benefits of the surrounding communities and those students who are either not in education or in training or in employment. So it's very sad to hear that there are institutions that are actually just leaving such you know, facilities not used. Engage with us. If the management is not making any effort, please engage with us as the department so that we don't have such investments going up the flames. Advocacy with labor with regards to changes. There are various platforms in which labor is involved, but we did pick up a gap because at the beginning of this process, there was a task team that was established where labor, I think NAPTOSA is also represented there in the NOPTT. It's a N1 to N3 task team that was established in 2021, started working in February 2022, where many of these issues around curriculum transformation, especially with the phase out of the NATED, are engaged on. But there are issues around, advocacy on what will happen, with conditions of employment. And I can make an example with one, that now because occupational qualifications integrates the theory, practical, and the workplace, now what's going to happen with lecturers who were facilitating learning in NATED and so on. Their conditions of employment has not changed. The NATED programs were ministerial programs, occupational qualifications are ministerial programs. So if you were employed to facilitate learning in ministerial programs, then what should change? We work 40 hours a week. If you were doing 25 hours in the classroom and 10 hours in contact activities within the college and another 5 hours preparing at work, that 40 hours still exists. There's not changed because occupational qualifications are in. It's just that now facilitation of learning is in an occupational qualification, not in NATED, but your conditions of employment has not changed. But anyway, some of these things can then be threshed out, and we can do more in putting effort to advocate and clarify many of these things. But there are platforms that were established, and I do understand that there may be gaps with filtering of information. I've dealt with the 4R Labs follow-up. Please, if there is a 4R Lab that has been established in your institution, and it's sitting there for a year without any activity, and the people who are in charge are not doing anything, please engage with us at the department, and then we'll see how we intervene. Because those are real investments that are supposed to change people's lives. Why could not have a national coordinated effort to support occupational qualifications? I indicated earlier that, occupational qualifications are this very good, flexible type of qualifications. We don't want to have a situation where we replicate the delivery of occupational qualifications as if we are doing the NATED again. Institutions need to deliver the occupational qualification according to their needs and according to their material conditions. Now, there are things that are standard, like the curriculum needs are standard, but the delivery models are flexible. So, capacity building to support occupational qualifications has to be institutional based or clusters of institutional based because of the flexibility of these occupational qualifications. If we want to deliver them exactly the same way as NATED, then we are going to face the same problem that we had faced with NATED. So let's allow this flexibility, and let's institutions contextualize the delivery of these occupational qualifications according to their strengths and according to their material conditions. And the department is always available through the lecturer development and support unit for colleges to engage when they want support on any area of delivery of occupational qualifications. And we need to have contextualized, tailor-made support for specific institutions and not one size fits all, because not all colleges are at the same level, having the same demographic of skills and so on. So let's learn to contextualize things according to the institutional needs and not do one size fits all, because then it creates it stifles innovation. The issues around liquor board and the establishment of partnerships that are not working. When it's called a partnership, they are partners, not so? It's not just one, it's more than one. So let's establish where the issues are coming from. Is it communication in the what you have established to manage your partnership? Did you put anything in the MOU or in the MOA or in your letter of cooperation, something to deal with the eventualities, like when one partner is not engaging or they are not attending to your meetings and so on, or if they are not bringing up, completing the end of the bargain as per agreement. So it depends. I don't have a straight answer for that because there are more than one partners in this. And what is the partners doing, the other partner doing in effort to have the partnership work? Are we encouraging principals enough in DDMs? I don't know, DDG. In all the meetings that we have with principals, the presentation that I make, we meet with them in forums twice a month and so on, depending on what the activity is. But there's not even one single engagement with principals that we would not talk about the alignment of qualifications with the skills needs of their service areas. And in that, there are three things that we'll never miss. We'll never miss encouraging them to engage with the district development models. We'll never miss having them engage with IDPs. We'll never miss having colleges engage with local business chambers and chambers of commerce. There are some that have engagement in provincial structures like the PATSEC for artisans and artisan development and so on. But I'm telling you, the advocacy for engagement of colleges with development plans around their service areas, we can't do more than what we currently do. Every presentation, every engagement, whether verbal, we always encourage colleges to do that, and mainly with principals. Supporting students with disabilities, I think, Ms. Mafilika did touch on that one. And then, there are efforts from the department side where webinars and training sessions for lecturers who want to participate in developing skills to engage and facilitating learning in environments where there are students with disabilities. So there's effort from the department, and not everything can be centralized. The needs of Muteo TVET College and the needs of Maluti TVET College in terms of supporting students with disabilities may not be the same. So institutions need to learn, need to change the mindset of high schools so that when there are needs, they establish what the needs are and then engage with relevant supporting structures. And if it's the department, then they must engage. Because people who are sitting at 123 Francis Bart, they are not seeing exactly what is happening in a classroom at Maluti or at EMC. So institutions need to start making initiatives on institutionally contextualized needs so that they can be supported in that way. The one size fits all cannot work. There's somebody who's accusing the department, accusing the principals. Yes, he says the problem is the DHED. The problem is government. Why don't they just put regulations and say, you industry, from tomorrow you are taking our students? Now, I think government has done a lot in this space. They have provided incentives for industries to support students. They have provided support through SETAs and industry engage in SETA forums and so on. But I want to ask this question to the fellow. If we want to force industry to take our students so that they can complete the qualifications, then what happens when the industry says, yes, it's fine, I opened my floor to take the student. You can bring him, then we will finish this and then you will take him back after he completes. Do you see where I'm going? It's not, we are looking at the wrong issue. The issue is not industry opening places for placement, because placement is just placement. They can open, you place a student, the student finishes the experiential learning back to the street. You will not have solved the problem. The problem is, are we training in skills that are needed by the economy? Because if we are training in skills that are needed by the economy, we won't need to fight with anyone. Because they will come to us and say, hey, I've got these spaces because I'm doing a succession plan in this area. I'm going to need people here. So can I take 3 students to train them? Because when they finish here, then they have to fill these spaces in this area. So it means that the issue should be, we should train in areas where there are skills needs. Then we won't have to force anybody to do anything, because then there will be the skills needs in the areas that we are training. That should be the question. That should be the focus. Not forcing anybody to take students who will then be placed and after being placed, sent back to be unemployed. A model for stakeholder engagement. Colleagues, yes, there is support for, developing partnerships and so on. But let's not create, I don't know what the correct English word is. Let's not create, narrow focuses on everything. The partnership needs of Vembe TVET College, sitting at Makwarela in the Vembe district in Limpopo, and the partnership needs of EWC, Ekurhuleni West College, sitting in Jamestown, around that industrial area, may not be the same. So you want us to create some narrow partnership advisory model that will then fit perhaps the partnership and engagement possibilities of colleges that are sitting in the cities. Or maybe we create one that at the end provide competencies for creating partnerships maybe in rural set colleges. Let's not create narrow focuses on some of the things that we need to just contextualize according to the service area where the colleges are situated. In order to bring innovation in the TVET sector, we have to allow for, institutions to contextualize the material conditions of where they are situated and be supported according to that. If a college is sitting in Engobo, yeah, there's probably a campus of a college in Engobo, I think I remember now. KSD, yeah. There are needs for, firstly, for programs to align with the service need of that area. It's not the same with the need of aligning programs with PCC that's sitting at East London, for instance. So even the kind of engagement and the industry around and so on, they might need different competencies. So if we need to support a college that's sitting at Engobo to be able to engage with industry and potential employers who are around Ngobo, we should do it with the context of Ngobo. We should not do it with the context of East London. I think we've talked about lecturer capacity development a lot, even in the previous session. We have talked about contextualizing this partnership and linkages according to the needs of the colleges, and not have one size fits all and narrow frameworks. Performance management of partnerships. We signed 5 partnership agreements today, and next year, none of them are functional. I think DDG, I know principals have, as part of their annual performance plan, they have a target of the number of partnerships that they must sign, and they are followed up. But if there are gaps and lapses somewhere in terms of we just getting paper there at the head office of signed agreements which are not functional, then maybe it's something that we should start looking at DDG. MOU of partnerships are letters accepted. I'm not sure if there is a regulation also in terms of the CET as to what the structure of an MOU, MOA, or letter of cooperation should look like. But if the partners are satisfied and it's legally sound, I wouldn't see any problem. What is important is, what is the partnership yielding? Are the objectives that the partners envisage to achieving them? If you want assistance with templates of maybe other MOUs that have been signed in the area that you want to explore, and perhaps maybe as an institution, you can also be the initiators of these templates and then just have them read and sign, rather than expecting them to develop those kind of documents. I'm just going into detail, but there isn't really much in that space because it's really contextual. It's partners dealing with their documents. Collaboration partnerships with universities for arts and culture. Yeah, it's very important. Colleges, while they're building their capacity in terms of facilities for extracurricular activities, universities that are closer, because many of them already have such facilities, it's important that you collaborate with them to leverage on the existing facilities that they have. That is encouraged. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, thank you very much. I would like to thank our panelists for sharing their thoughts, time, and expertise with us. I would also like to thank you, delegates, for being a good audience and asking robust and progressive questions. And then lastly, I would like to thank myself for facilitating this session. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Okay, okay. Let's do much better than that. Let's. Okay. Thank you so much to the panelists, Mr. Vele, Ms. Mafilik. I now realize that Basotho speaking people call your surname differently. Ne? I saw when the lady was asking a question. Thank you so much to Babu Buthelezi. Yeah, thank you so much. Let's give the panel a huge round of applause. Now, I know I'll be chased out of Gauteng. Thank you so much, Mr. Nkosi, for doing a great job. Let's give him a huge round of applause. You can now take your seat. And colleagues, Mr. Vele, Ms. Mafilika, Mr. Buthelezi, please let's go to the outside. There's a lady that is waiting for you for interviews. Not one. Okay. I'll speak for the last time, then I'll ask the DDG to come and close today's session. But there are a few takes that I want us to engage on. The first one is, I'm sitting here, DDG, and I'm thinking, man, maybe at some point we must start to elevate our view of the system as a whole. I think we become too narrow at times in terms of how do we view the system as well. For instance, all of us that are here, except people from the industry, we are the same department. All of us that are here, we are the same department. We are the same government. All of us that are here. We have the same responsibility to make sure that some of the issues that we raise, we try to implement them within the available legislation or frameworks that are there. We have the same responsibility. I think we need to start embracing that. And I'm reminded, Mr. Medira, earlier on, I was having a conversation with our colleagues from Comms. I'm not sure where they are now. They've been doing a great job as well. Let's give them a good round of applause. So, they were saying to me, it's going to be a nice angle if we see college logos and all of that. I said, no. Everyone that is here is the same. When you are here, you do not belong to some entity somewhere. You belong into one structure, one government, which is SATVETSA now, the one that is here. But we are one department, which is DHET. I think we need to start elevating that argument. And more or less, I see that argument when it comes to NSFAS, that we tend to have a certain view as if NSFAS is an animal outside the Department of Higher Education, as if colleges are animals outside the Department of Higher Education and Training. I think the thinking around what the department is, we need to start broadening it a bit. Now, I've taken from this conversation, Mr. Medira, that at times we complain of structural issues. For instance, if in an entity, the Directorate for Innovation is not working well with academics, we will then have this perception that partnership is only a matter of innovation. It's not a matter of a college holistically, because we seem not to have an understanding of how the whole college structure is. We seem not to have that understanding. Maybe it's an issue of how do we then start saying, because I know, I've never been in a college RM, you'll tell me, but I know that a functioning college does not function when one wheel is not doing well. So all these different directorates in a college complement each other. Complement each other. It's one of those things that in our unit you'll call it So you'll have people that are responsible for pre-entry. You have the ones that are responsible for on-course. You have the ones that are responsible for exit support. But as soon as we start assuming that exit support is separate from pre-entry, we will not have been able to understand how the whole student support services function. So I think somehow we need to start elevating that. But I also want to thank it's my last chance as a program director for the day, and I'm not back again tomorrow. I want to thank the delegates today. I'm impressed, I must say. I think our students can engage curriculum issues much more better than I do. Now I'm only focused on what the Act says on governance. So if you ask me about curriculum and all of these things, it's not my best skill. But I've been impressed at the level of articulation from our students. So please give yourself a good round of applause for them. On the last part, I'm going to make this announcement that when the DDG is done, we will ask all our VIPs to leave. So, because we want to prepare for tomorrow, then we'll then say, every delegate that is here remain, and I'll tell you what must happen. Because we have a commission that we're supposed to have completed today, I would urge that at least by 8:30 tomorrow we're seated. We finish the commission. At least by 8:30 tomorrow. We are not coming in, we're seated. I'm a bit worried that when we go out, we did not come back. But I will tell you how I'm going to spot the ones that are not here, Mr. Mdira. They will see Lebona Gausan. I have a strategy. And we are going to punish them very well. So without any waste of time, colleagues, I would like to call, and let me also thank the RM for Gauteng and Free State. Mr. Mashele, you've been with us in your region. You stayed with us the whole day. You've hosted us very well. We know that it's a Friday. You could have been at this time with your family, but you stayed with us as young people of SATVETSA, because I'm employed by SATVETSA for today. We are really grateful. Let's give Mr. Mashele a good round of applause. Now I'm going to call on UDDG just to come and give a nice rap for today and close. But as soon as UDDG is done, I'll ask all our other dignitaries to leave, and then we'll remain behind it. Let's give him a good round of applause.
No, thank you very much, Program Director, Mr. Sondi. I know it's very late in the day. It's been a long day for all of us. And we look forward to resting and preparing for day 2, which is tomorrow. It's a weekend, but you are sacrificing your weekends, all of you, in ensuring that indeed we are transforming the TVET, not just for ourselves, but also for the future. I think Sonti touched on the very important thing that we are here as a collective. And I know that there's a tendency of saying there's DHET. And that comes from a person that is getting a salary from DHET. So you are part of us, Zugo. There's no DHET and what, we are all a collective. So we are one of us. So when you start saying DHET, you are pointing at yourself. It is us that can transform this sector and nobody else but us, because we are within this sector and we appreciate that. I think just in my closing remarks, so that we capture this very importantly, we are just transiting from the 6th administration to the 7th administration. We use a particular framework when we were under the 6th administration that was called the MTSF, the Medium Term Strategic Framework. I'm sure you are familiar with it. It had 7 priorities, and I hope that part of the discussions, there will be engagement in relation to that framework. But that's a framework that is going to take us from now till about 2030. But we are transitioning from the MTSF to what is called now the MTDP, the Medium Term Development Plan. Now, from there, we have reduced the 7 priorities to only 3 priorities that we're going to be focusing on. And on top of that list is about fighting issues of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. And what is it that we are going to contribute as a PSET sector, as a TVET within the PSET sector, in dealing with issues of high unemployment, as well as poverty and inequality? So as we design this curricula and we infuse or provide input towards the transformation of this curricula, how is it going to address those 3 priorities that are contained within the MTDP? And I hope, Sonti, that at some point we will share that document, the final document. It's just that it must still be presented to Cabinet after the GNU has agreed on those terms and conditions of the MTDP. So once it's adopted, we'll then be able to share with yourselves as young leaders that are going to take us to 2030. Now, so as we embrace this transition, I think it will be important once more to highlight and provide a vision for us as a sector, the TVET sector. What is it that we hope to achieve in the next 5 years that are coming? So the next 5 years, we will see TVET colleges firmly positioned as drivers of sustainable economic growth and innovation. 4 pillars that I'm going to touch on. 1, it is the expanded curriculum modernization. I think most of the questions that you raised today talk to this particular element, which is leg 1, expanded curriculum modernization, building on the success of the QCTO reform. The TVET colleges will further integrate qualifications in cutting-edge fields, such as the hydrogen economy that I've mentioned. We should talk to hydrogen production, the storage and transportation, so we can then see what are the careers and the skills that will be needed in hydrogen production, in the storage, in the transportation. Just energy transition, the solar and wind energy. Some of us come from Northern Cape, where we've got the highest heat. How are we using that to generate energy, and what skills will be required? Government have built the locals' housing and installed solar geysers. How many of you have got skills to fix those geysers that were put on top of your roofs in those houses? Do we have such skills, or do we need people to come and fix them? Now, how many of them are working now? The digital economy that will talk to artificial intelligence, robotics, blockchain systems, as well as digital marketing. I know colleges are phasing out marketing. But as you phase out marketing, why don't you bring in digital marketing? Because that's what is making young people to make a living. Oceans economy, I've touched on that. The automotive space, we're talking about the development, the repair, and the production of electronic cars. We are expecting that these inventions are going to come from the TVET sector, because we are the most practical within the PSET system. And we hope that part of your end products, as you exit, will see one young person developing an EV from a TVET sector. I think Vembe TVET College has already demonstrated that they can do. It's not only them, I think a number of other colleges and students have done that. Mining sector, how are we playing? And most provinces in our country have some mining activities. How are we ensuring that we expose our young people in those careers? And then lastly but not least is the agricultural sector. Germans have what we call the Doiler system. The Doyler system, it focuses on anything and everything that has got to deal with agriculture. Agriculture is broad. You need mechanical guys, you need electrical guys, you need plumbers, you need carpenters, all kind of skills that are needed within the agricultural sector. And we believe that indeed we can deal with the issues of high unemployment and create job opportunities in that area. But also we can create self-employment. The second pillar, this was the first pillar on expanded curriculum modernization. The second pillar is the entrepreneurship and self-employment focus. We really need to drive this. And that is what is making the German system not to be shaken by the fluctuations in the stock markets, because the majority of our young people are not absorbed by your big corporates, your Mercedes, your BMW, VFWs, and whatever Ws, but they are working in the what is called the small medium enterprises. So how do we use TVET colleges as springboards for economic emancipation of our people? If you look at Stellenbosch is a rural town. But what has made Stellenbosch to be what it is today is because there is an institution of learning there, which is Stellenbosch University, and they've used it to become a Silicon Valley, like in Stanford University, where the venture capitalists will come and listen to you as young people. When you partake on the Allen Gray competitions, we should be having what is called VCs or venture capitalists who are listening to your innovative ideas and put money into that so that you can start your business. Elon Musk is a product of that. You all know him. He's a product of that. Come from Stanford, he pitched on renewable energy solutions. That's why he developed electric cars, but we've just learned that the initial EV was built where? They said it's a province of the legends at the university called the Nelson Mandela University. But because there's no one who believed in that concept, it went abroad. Now it's an Elon Musk product and concept. But it started here. So it means where we have a TVET campus, let's consider that TVET campus as a springboard for the economic emancipation of those local people. The issue of choosing occupational programs, they must talk to the economic activities of that era. That's why colleges are given that flexibility to choose, informed by what is happening within your areas, and not us as a department dictating to you that offer this NATED, offer this NCV. It's now the opportunity for you to choose the programs. The third pillar is the recognition of informal prior learning. Got a number of young people who are fixing cars, who are doing welding under the trees. They have the skill, but they don't have the paper to prove that. Or if you can increase that capacity on ensuring that we recognize that informal prior learning, we should be able to address issues of unemployment. The fourth pillar, which is the last one, is a collaboration with industry and SETAs. I think you have already cemented that. Most of you spoke about that. The industry partnerships, as we say, should not just be about work placement for students and lecturers, but we also need the industry partners to be part and parcel of providing ingredients as we're busy reviewing our curriculum. We need them to sit in our boards. There is a political party, I don't want to get into politics, but they have this saying, amandla asemasebeni. What does that mean? It means the power is within the. So if you consider yourself as a particular branch within the whole PSET system, it means you can be in a position to influence policy. And what Zugo was saying, I can't remember whether it was Zugo, to say, if he was in my desk or in my position, he would have said to the industries, you are going to be taxed high if you don't do this and that. But that is on a punitive side. You want it to be on more progressive side, not to be punitive. You are saying, if you take more students, we are going to give you this much. Because when we tap into that space where you impose more tax, it also have a negative effect, because investors might say you've got too much tax and we are pulling out. But we can say, if you are taking more students, here's an incentive for you to adopt more students. In Germany, every small, medium enterprise, as you walk through their doors, they have a sticker that says, I'm a proud trainer of apprentices. They do that voluntarily without any. But why they're doing that is to build a very strong, small, medium enterprise that will generate more jobs for their people. With us, it's different because of the nature of our economy in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, those are my last input, because I might not be with you, Mr. Sonti, till the end of this session, to say, as we are busy trying to shape the curriculum, which direction that we should be taking as TVET, so that the next students that are going to walk out of our gates are not deemed to be irrelevant, but are more responsive to the needs of them as individuals and that of the economy and the society at large. I wish you everything of the best, and once more, thank you to the organizers and everyone that has been part of this, but wishing you a most successful conference and look forward to very progressive resolutions after this. Thank you very much.
We can do. Okay. I have one announcement. So there's a lady who was given a charger outside to charge a power bank and somehow disappeared with the charge or can't be found. It's with the, please go to Sharon. Sharon, it's not a lady, it's a man, Somelel. Oh, Yamas. Okay. So Somelele is from where Engcobo is. The nickname of Engcobo is Emaseleni. Okay. Now, I'll why status are you speaking? Okay. I have a friend, DDG, whose father was found stealing a gusha power busy. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, DDG RMs, you can leave. Siyabulela realebua. Siyakenza. Sisma Filika Bayadangi, we'll see you on Sunday. Okay, this is what we are going to do now. This is what we are going to do. So tomorrow you will also be given t-shirts nah, for tomorrow. But this is how we are going to do now. Someone must assist me. Mbulelo, please check if, Ace, because we can get out easily. Please check if the ladies outside, Boba Gang, they are ready. If they are ready, then we start the process. They are ready? Now, this is how we are going to do. I'm going to ask SRCs first, per province, to go out and collect their t-shirts. Those who arrived late today, unfortunately, you arrived when these t-shirts were no longer there. You will only have one set, which is the one that we'll give you today. It's one of those unfortunate things. Are they ready, Baga? Also, it's compulsory that if you are inside today, you wear your t-shirts. Because if you come tomorrow and you don't have it, we will not have a spare for you. That's why I'm saying the ones that have left, we can easily identify them in the morning. Yeah? And we'll give them a special row. I will give them a nice special row. And now there's a certain Maskandi song that I like that says Gadumzila. Ne? So I sang uzodlala namhlanje. Sondo, let's do it outside. They will come to you. Let's keep the same tables, they'll come to you. Yeah, they will come to you. I want us to at least maintain some order. Okay, may I please start with these two provinces? Northern Cape, Northwest. Please go outside and collect your t-shirts. The rest of the province, sit here. SRCs from Northern Cape, Northwest. Please go outside. Let's do it quickly, Anit. Yeah, including SATVETSA members from those provinces. Sean and the secretary, please make sure that it's SRCs. Ne? When you're done, just signal to me that you're done. Make it snappy, colleagues. He'll come to you. So Melele, yeah, go share pass so that you assist with the church, Abnet.